All right. Okay, we are live. Welcome, everybody, to the Nebraska postgame show with the voice of college football. I'm Jake Brown. This is my father, Jeffrey Brown. We're going to be your hosts, and we're going to be doing this on a weekly basis. So, really excited to get this opportunity. Hope everybody could join in. So, first of all, Jeffrey, tell us, where are you? Because I see palm trees, and why should the audience listen to us? How did we get here?
Okay, thanks, Jake, and I'm glad to be in on this. Well, I am a Kansas City resident, but this is our second home down in Marco Island. As you can see, there's not palm trees in Kansas, so we're down here, and we were kind of helping out because hurricane relief down here has caused a few problems, but we're getting after it. Your mom's doing a great job, so we're trying to make sure the house gets dry from being too wet. So, but on the Nebraska front, so I did go to TCU. I'm a graduate of TCU, which it's funny when I was there and after I started to get Jake's age and older, the Horned Frogs never won a football game. Kansas never won a football game, and my family was Kansas fans. We cheered for KU basketball, but Nebraska in the mid 80s and 90s was always a really good, obviously perennial football power. I respected the organization. Got to go to a few games when Jake's grandpa, my wife's family has season tickets, and I did business up there for a while and got to know through some sponsoring of some Big Red Friday morning breakfast with the coaches back in the mid 90s. I'll quote talking to Tom Osborne a couple of times, who I thought was a phenomenal coach. I just really respected him as a leader, not just a coach. But I remember the year was 1995, and I was at a Big Red Friday breakfast where they let the coaches talk about the previous game, and another coach talked about the game coming up. And I asked Coach Osborne, I said, "How's the team looking for this year, Coach?" And this was 1995, and he looked at me and he said, I think we have a chance to be pretty good if we don't have any injuries. And for most of the Husker fans or anybody that's listening, the 1995 Nebraska teams probably will go down as one of the greatest college football teams ever. So, but the last thing I'll say is I love back then the walk-on redshirt program, because that's what I see myself as, overachievers. They were kids that didn't get, for the most part, that roster was 80% Nebraska kids. Not a lot of big star recruits. They all wanted to see the field. They worked out hard. They did their grades. They'd mix in some good athletes from the coast. And so, remember, Nebraska is number one in football academic All-Americans in the nation. And that's because of that walk-on redshirt program. So that's what I like. They're overachievers, like I think I am. So, and it's funny how TCU now is 8-0, ranks
I know.
7th in the nation, and
if only my dad rooted for the team, the school he went to, I wouldn't be dealing with this much heartbreak. But so everybody, by the time I was born, my dad was a nut, a Husker fanatic, and we had Huskers Illustrated subscriptions. We were going to games every year, still do. So we were very excited to be talking about the team, and even though it was a tough loss. So with that said, let's jump into it. The final score, Nebraska 9, Illinois 26. So let's jump right in. Quick reaction. Jeffrey, why don't you go ahead and start us off? What were your thoughts right after the game?
Yeah, well, it's disappointing. Well, my first thought at the end of the game was I'm looking forward to the coaching decision in the next 2 or 3 weeks by Trev Alberts, unfortunately. And I think a lot of Husker fans are, because we're in a struggle. It's just really kind of sad. I think the defense tried really hard. I think they still have tremendous tackling issues. I think the offensive line was really doing good at the start, and then the turnovers by Casey just disrupted the momentum tremendously. And then the turnovers, it's like, oh my God. So I think for the most part, Lincoln's probably wondering or looking forward to who's going to be our next coach, honestly.
Yep. I agree with you. Yeah, I have a lot of the same thoughts. I thought that the defense played hard. They never gave up. I mean, they played good enough for us to win that game. And in the first half especially, I thought our offensive line, like you mentioned, they played good. They were creating holes for Anthony Grant, 22-yard run part of the game. You know, he was averaging 5.7 yards a carry in the first half. We just didn't give him enough carries, but I thought we played hard. Mickey Joseph, you know, he may not be the guy next year, but he gets him to play with heart and energy. And I thought, you know, the offensive line and the defense played really good. I did.
Yep.
But let's flip it over to the other side. Let's talk about Illinois. They're a legit team. Give us your thoughts on Illinois.
Yeah, I'm really surprised at Belima. I liked him at Wisconsin. I didn't know what happened at Arkansas when he got there, but I think he's really doing good. They look good. They're fundamentally disciplined. They have some really good athletes. I don't know if somebody needs to find out if they had a large number of portal transfers because they're a young team, but they look, you know, what should be comforting to Nebraska fans is that if Illinois in 2 years with Belima can be where they are today, then that bodes well for Nebraska with our new coaching situation as we come to grips with that, hopefully in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Amen. I totally agree. Because, I mean, this is Illinois' first, and you can see it in the banner. This is their first winning season since 2011.
You know.
It's Bielema's second year there. They weren't as good last year. They struggled, but for year two, for them to be 7-1, and I don't know, maybe one of the viewers can find out if they had some portal guys coming in, but for the talent they have, the recruits they get, he's done a hell of a job. They're a good team. Fundamentally, they tackled very well, but as you can see, they are atop the Big Ten West standings, 7-1, and they're going to probably crack the top 15 after this win.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so let's next go into the Husker highlights. Not a ton of them, but Jeffrey, why don't you start us off? What are your highlights from this game?
You know, I'm trying to, think about Trey Palmer got shut down. Usually he does a lot. I was hoping he'd get in there. I thought Brewington made a couple good plays, the young tight end. I thought Vokalek made a good play on that touchdown pass. Anthony Grant, as usual, tries to make something out of nothing a little bit. The offensive line was doing good in the first half, and then the turnovers just disrupted everything. I thought that Reimers and Gifford on defense were all over the field making tackles. They're the only ones that were really tackling well. And then I did think that Buscemi, our punter, did pretty good. So
special teams. I'm glad you mentioned Buscemi. Is that how you say the punter's last name?
Well, I usually mess up names. That's the pot calling the kettle black asking me to get a name right. I don't do well with that, but I think it's Buscemi, yes.
I will say from last year when Frost was still the coach, special teams was horrendous.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to close our eyes on a PAT or a field goal. I think our coordinator, it's Butch, right? Brian, or is it
Butch, right.
Yep. He's done a phenomenal job, not only with the defense since taking over, but with special teams. That's not an area we really have had to worry as much this year, and I agree with you. But my highlights, it's the defense. Luke Reimer is a beast. I mean, but he can't do it all by himself. I didn't like that personal foul. That was really surprising, that personal foul on him.
I think he lost where he was.
I think Devito may have said something to him. But
yeah, he did. I think he did.
But Reimer was definitely a highlight. I thought he's a tackling machine, and I think that the defense as a whole played really hard.
Yeah, Reimer's going to play in the pros, and I told you a year ago he was good, and you didn't believe me.
I didn't believe you. I thought he was, I didn't think he was any good.
He's fast.
He is. He can chase guys down all over the field. I got to give my dad credit. He told me Reimers was good, and I didn't buy it. So, all right. So let's next go in. There's more of these. The lowlights. Jeffrey, take it away.
Casey's turnovers. He's got to take a sack and just go down. He doesn't need to try to throw it when two guys are smashing him and then the ball goes up in the air and they pick it off. It's just like, come on, Casey. Just go down. Be more pocket. Intelligent. It's just a struggle still right now. He's really does well at times. He shows signs of being really capable, but man, in the pocket, he just sometimes those turnovers just killed us. And then the tackling on defense was just, I don't understand why we're having such tackling issues. That is a that's coaching. There's talent there. Something's wrong. It's driving me crazy. So
Yep, I agree. Darn straight. I think that the tackling, when you don't see improvements, because Mickey Joseph, you hear it all the time during the week, during press conferences, we're tackling a lot. We do it every week, multiple times a week. And as much as everyone loves and is rooting for Mickey Joseph, I'm thinking, is he for real? Because every week it's the same thing. Besides Reimer and, a couple others, nobody's making the plays they need to make. And I also agree with you on the turnovers. Casey Thompson, he's a portal guy that we brought in, ton of talent, former Texas quarterback. He can make throws where you go, oh my God, this guy's unbelievable. He can carry the team, but he also, like Adrian Martinez, who's now at K-State, he can kill us. The momentum. Because look, we had the lead. It was 9-6. Thinking we could have the lead going into halftime, and then those 2 interceptions, they killed the momentum. I agree with you.
And he's a small quarterback, really, so he's got to be smart about taking care of himself. Where he's going to take a sack, just go down. Don't get creamed and try to throw it at the last minute because he's not Josh Allen. So.
Or Pat Mahomes.
I'm sorry, Chiefs fans. I'm sorry. There was a little bit of Buffalo Bills support there.
Yeah. And I also got to say, we have yet to really see Casey run. And he can. He's fast. He's athletic. I don't know why. Maybe it's again, he's injured, and we'll get into that here in a minute. Maybe it's we're afraid to get him hurt, or maybe it's, he's just.
Yeah, I think he leans forward with his arm, and you saw where the announcer said Mickey Joseph has been working with him weekly to if it's not there, don't force a pass, just tuck it down and run. So I think they're trying to go with that. So I think Mickey's doing what he can.
Yeah, hopefully we see him run a little more. Now we don't know when we're going to see Casey Thompson next. That is what we're going to go into here next, injury updates. So that's the big question mark. Casey Thompson, we saw what happened when we bring in the backups, Chuba Purdy. I think even the other kid got a little bit of time in there.
Wait, Jake, is it Chuba or Chubba?
Chubba. I call him Chubba.
Okay, Chubba. That's another name thing. I call him Chubba, but I didn't know what it was.
Chubba Purdy. I've heard both. Okay. And he was another guy we brought in from Florida State, 4-star recruit. Purdy is, but we were anemic. When we lost Casey, for all the turnovers he had and the momentum that we lost because of him, he carries us. So it's really the biggest question mark is how long is Casey Thompson hurt? And he went out in the third quarter.
Yeah, Chubba looked frightened when he was in there. He did not look comfortable at all. I felt bad for him. I would have probably brought Logan in just
smothered. Yeah. Well, Logan has proven that he can run for us a little bit.
He can throw too. But Chubba just looked really nervous, uncomfortable. So, that's whatever. So that offensive line, there's a few guys hurt there. I hope a couple of them come back, like Bando. And
here's the full list of injuries, and not to make any excuses or say we would have won the game with these guys in, but Nebraska has been hammered with injuries this year. You see the list of those guys. Omar Manning, top junior college wide receiver a few years ago. He was a big target for Martinez last year. He hasn't played much of all. You notice Brock Bando, Prochaska, and Newey on the offensive line.
Yeah, Jake, Prochaska and Norridon are the 2 best linemen we have.
Right.
He's the best guard, and Prochaska's the best tackle. So we started the year without our 2 top linemen, in my opinion, and a 5-star tight end in Fedoni, who he heard how do you say his name again?
Thomas Fedoni.
Fedoni. I got that right. I got that name right.
Yeah, he was the #1 tight end recruit in the nation. Ross got him.
Yeah, and if anybody doesn't know, he hurt the same leg again. That's why they say he's running good. He's doing well. He's a 6'5", 250-pound tight end that can fly. So hopefully he gets better. But yeah, that doesn't help for 2022.
Yeah, and Nick Henrich, we lost him in the blue game. You could tell how much we missed him. I think Hausman played well, stepping in, and Kolovarik, but or Kolarevic, but
Kolarevic did well. Yeah, I should have mentioned that. I thought he had a good game. I really do. He tackled. He did good filling in alongside Reimers. I should have said that. Chris Kolarevic.
And he's from Iowa, right?
Yeah. And he runs good. No, he did well.
Yeah. So again, the big question mark on these injury updates, Casey Thompson. We don't know the status. We'll probably hear on that in the coming week, but we sure would love to get him back against Minnesota next week.
Because Minnesota is another. I guess we'll jump into that here. Maybe I'm jumping ahead, but Minnesota is like, they're just like Illinois. I mean, they pound the ball with probably as good or better of a halfback than the Illinois kid. So
we'll get it, and we'll get into the Minnesota preview and some of their in a minute. So we sure hope we get some of these injured guys back. Omar Manning, Brock Bando were game time decisions. So hopefully, we get some of those guys so we can win a game or two. Let's jump in now. Player of the game. I'm going to start here. This might surprise some people because it's not one of the Brown brothers for Illinois. Chase Brown had a heck of a game. His brother, I forget his first name.
Sydney
Brown. Thank you. They're studs, and I think it's so cool they're twins and play on the same team. But for me, it was the Illinois quarterback, Tommy Devito. Coming into this game, everybody's talking about, Illinois' rushing attack and how they pound the ball with Brett Bielema and that culture. But Tommy Devito, and you heard the announcer saying it, he played phenomenal. 20-22, only had one incompletion in the first half, 179 yards and 2 touchdowns. He played calm, cool, and collected, and I think that –
yeah, where did he transfer from?
They said it. It was in the ACC. I don't know.
I think it's Syracuse. I'm betting money at Syracuse. He came from Syracuse, I think. He did great.
Let's see if there's nothing in the comments. But yeah, we'll have to look that up later. But he played phenomenal. A lot better, a lot more poised than Casey Thompson before he got.
Very efficient.
How about you? Who's your player of the game?
Well, I'm taking Chase Brown. He had 150 yards rushing, 30 carries. He never gets hurt. The other thing you got to say about Illinois, why they're in a good spot, and I think they'll win the West, but they're healthy. I mean, nobody's hurt. And so that's a big deal. And it is really cool that his brother's the safety strong safety on the other team. They're really good players. So
I thought he was a linebacker.
Is he a linebacker? He kind of looks like I thought he was strong safety.
Could be a hybrid type. Could be.
Somebody watching should double check that and see who's right, because I think I'm right on Syracuse. I'm right on some of these names. I think, got to help Jake out here. So I'd say he's a strong safety, Sydney. So
okay, we'll have to check you on that. But yeah, Chase Brown, he's pretty explosive. It seems like he's been there for 12 years. He's a heck of a player. Both those brothers are going to be pros. But
and where'd Chase Brown come from? Where'd he transfer to Illinois from?
You got me here again.
Western Michigan, I think. That's another one. We got to get the host up to speed here, guys.
Knowledge here. I got to get better educated for this next post game we do.
All right.
We're moving and grooving. Let's talk about next week. We got Minnesota. For those of you who don't know, they did pound Rutgers today. They did move to 5-3, 2-3 in the conference. Same conference record as us. We have mightily struggled with the Minnesota Gophers since our time being in the Big Ten.
Yep.
They drive me nuts, like Wisconsin, like Illinois, very similar team. You see what they did to Rutgers, and I'm nervous, especially not knowing the status of Casey Thompson. And, a stat I'll show here, their running back, who's every bit as high profile as Chase Brown, Muhammad Ibrahim, look at the stats he had against Rutgers. 36 carries, 160 yards, 3 touchdowns. So they're going to pound the ball. They might do some play action, might mix it up, do a couple trick plays, but they stick to what they're doing, much like Illinois, and that scares Husker fans. So what do you think?
Yeah, Abraham's bigger back than Chase Brown. I mean, he's bigger. He's a NFL back. Yeah, I don't. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be, and our safeties that have to come up and run stop on these types of teams like Illinois and Minnesota because they just pound these big back. That was the biggest. That was a real tackling issue today with Farmer at the safety position.
Farmer, yeah.
Really, yeah, that safety comes in and is one on one to make those tackles, and I'm afraid we're going to have a tough day next weekend. I have tickets. I was going to go, but I think I'm giving them up just because of something else going on. But um, other than a beautiful day in November in the Midwest, it's going to be. I'm kind of afraid for that because if Casey's not playing.
Yep. Yeah. Minnesota has, I mean, even in years where they aren't as good, or where they're having down years and we're having good years, they've beaten our butts. They just always have our way with us. And that's a team every year, no matter what the records are, where we're at with the coaching search, regardless. I'm scared of Minnesota. So you sure hope that the tackling's better. It's got to be if we want any chance of beating them. But that's a team that, they stick to what they do best, and I think we'd like to see Nebraska do some more of that, run the ball, pound and ground. And we're going to have to, first of all, we got to have Casey Thompson. If we don't have him available for this game, it's going to be really tough for us to have a shot, I think.
Me too. I think I hope they can get more definitiveness around either Chubb or Logan Smothers. Because did you see the announcers right after halftime where one announcer said that he asked Mickey Joseph who was going to start at quarterback, and he said Logan Smothers will be back out there. And then when they came out in the second half, it was Chubba. I think Whipple and Mickey kind of got into a disagreement on who should play quarterback. So they need to figure that out because that's a problem.
First of all, so one of our viewers, a buddy of mine, Johnny Alderman, did fact check you on the, well, it's been a couple of facts, but he said your dad is right. This fact, and so it's on either one of the transfer portal guys, the quarterback, Devito on Syracuse, or one of the others, or all of them. So, okay, you were right.
Chase Brown from Western Michigan. He's got to check that too. That's a big deal.
Yep.
Check out the old guy
because the baby boomer is getting after it, baby.
Yeah, I wonder how many portal transfers Illinois had. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, Minnesota. That's going to be kind of
real quick because you did mention Mark Whipple, and I did see that too. He was frustrated with the quarterbacks.
Big time.
And I haven't seen that. Whipple, when you see him on the sidelines, he's not a very emotional guy. Doesn't seem to really ever get mad or say much of anything except look at his play sheet. But I did see him get pissy on the sidelines. But will you first, since you're the knowledgeable guy on this episode, can you talk about where Whipple comes from? Because we got a lot of listeners that are NFL fans, and a certain quarterback who's now playing for the Steelers was coached by Whipple. Talk to us about that.
The things I've read about Whipple, and I know he's stern, very disciplined. He's kind of a hard ass with the quarterback. So he was getting after Casey a couple times. He's been getting after him because he's a good play caller and he expects execution on these plays. And I felt bad for Purdy because he was going after him too. But he's tough, and I can see Mickey Joseph trying to talk to Thompson after Whipple got after him, like trying to help him out. But it is what it is. But Whipple was at Pittsburgh for a while. He's been an offensive coordinator for a long time, but and he's been in the.
And he coached Kenny Pickett, who's now
Kenny Pickett, and he got him going. He wasn't great at first, but he got him to be pretty efficient.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah. What?
Your audio is kind of cutting out. Sorry about that. So who did he coach at Pittsburgh?
Kenny Pickett. Yeah,
that's
Kenny
right.
Pickett, right, the Steelers, and he's a very accurate passer, and so I think Whipple's. I think he's calling plays that are good. We just can't. It's like we had people open. It's like, my God, if we hit him, it'd be touchdown. So I don't fault Whipple. I think he's frustrated.
Like all of us are, I kind of like to see the frustration and see him getting after Thompson and Purdy. I think these kids, look, Purdy and these transfer guys, Trey Palmer, who did nothing today, which is shocking to me. Now let's remember the guy that was covering Trey Palmer is one of the best corners in the Big Ten.
Right.
So,
what's his name? Wasn't it Weatherford?
Yeah.
He's going to be a pro. He's very good. Yeah, he locked down Trey Palmer.
1 catch for 1 yard for Trey Palmer, but
yeah.
I agree with you. I think next week, especially if we don't have Thompson against Minnesota, Whipple's going to have to come up with a game plan to suit our strengths. I'd like to see us run the ball better. You know, Anthony Grant had some carries here and there, but we don't stick with it. And that's, again, Whipple is a pass guy. He's an East Coast passing guru, and you hear Mickey Joseph, we're going to stick with that. And, you know, I don't necessarily agree with it. I think in a game like that where you're the underdog and you're facing a superior team, you've got to establish a ground attack.
Right.
Maybe just my nature, but you sure hope, you know, next week that's what we're going to have to do. We're not going to be able to.
Yeah, I think we also need to play Ramir Johnson next week behind Grant, not Jaquez Yant, because Ramir can break some and is real fast. I don't know why he hasn't been in the game at all.
He dropped that. He had a big wide open pass this afternoon that he dropped. Now he would have been tackled, but
Ramir
you're right.
Johnson?
Yeah, one time game.
Really?
Yeah, it was odd because he's our best pass catcher. You remember last year against Michigan, he had the reception touchdown. No, and Ramir, another 4-star guy out of New Jersey. Wasn't he St. John Bosco or a big-time program up in
Bosco, yeah. I think he should play against Minnesota because we'll need that type of threat because Jaquez, we're not going to run him. Minnesota's lines are physical. We're not going to beat him up with Jaquez. He's just a big back. So, that I didn't see that pass to Ramir. He needs to play, I hope.
Yeah.
So.
I'm surprised we haven't seen more of him this year. Look, I know Anthony Grant's a stud, but especially in the passing game, screen passes, I agree with you. Ramir is a burner. We saw it against Michigan last year. I mean, he was a heck of a player. I hope that we see him more next week. I think we're going to have to do something different. And I also think we need to get Trey Palmer and Marcus Washington and some of these other transfer portal guys, because Marcus Washington, another 4-star portal guy from Texas, Trey Palmer, 5-star out of LSU. We've got to figure out a way to get the ball in their hands. You know, jet sweeps, you know, throw a new couple of wrinkles in like Andy Reid does every week for the Chiefs. Come on, we got to do something different. You know, I agree that Whipple's play calling, it set us up. We had opportunities today, but we got to do a couple new wrinkles or something. Yeah. Because we're not going to have Thompson next week, most likely.
Well, and do we want to finish this off? Do we want to talk about what we think who the coaching prospects are for the Huskers?
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, this is just who I think they're talking to. I think they're talking to the Iowa State coach Campbell, and I don't know. I don't think the Kansas coach, is interested. He's too new there. And I would hope that they would talk to Urban Meyer. I know a lot of people don't like that because of his character issues, but he's a winner in college, so I like that. So I know that Deion Sanders was mentioned as a candidate, and his Jackson State's doing good. But
hell yeah.
Yeah, there was somebody else.
Primetime Deion Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, he's, but who was it else? There was another person I'm trying to think now.
The Carolina guy that got their coach that got fired.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He's a candidate. I think it's Bill O'Brien, the Alabama offensive coordinator who was the Houston Texans coach. I think he's a top candidate.
I haven't heard that name yet.
Yeah, Bill O'Brien. And remember, he coached at Penn State right after they had the penalty with Joe Paterno and he took on a situation there that was really difficult and kind of got them right sized up and healthy. I think O'Brien would be really good. I'm kind of for O'Brien if they don't want Urban Meyer. And the last thing I'll say is that Nebraska is going to be okay because so many people care about Nebraska football. The whole state, when you have that type of passion and energy and support, they've got a ton of money. They're going to be okay. We just have to kind of hang in there right now because, boy, it's Struggleville. But anyway, That's
I didn't hear a couple names on your list, and I'm surprised. But being local Kansas City people, Lance Leopold, the Kansas Jayhawks coach, now the excitement around him and that team has died down a bit just because they've lost a couple of them in a row. But I think still he's a candidate that we need to be looking at very closely. I think again, Kansas, like Illinois, who we just got pounded by, was I think number one. They had a stat during the game where the most losing seasons in a row was Kansas. Number two was Illinois since 2000.
yeah, I know.
For his second year coming in, he has transformed that team with minimal talent on the roster. We follow recruiting, and KU's not getting they're a basketball school. They're not getting 4 and 5 star recruits. So I think he's a candidate to absolutely consider still. Lance Leopold.
Yeah, I think I question his recruiting abilities because I think O'Brien, we're going to need a recruiter. I think he's a great coach, fundamental coach, but he's got a lot of Les Miles recruits. I think we need someone who is a better recruiter and has an NFL pedigree like O'Brien, because these kids that are really good, they want to be coached by an NFL guy that has connection. So I'm more for O'Brien over Leopold for KU. Let KU have him and keep doing good. And, that's my opinion.
Well, another guy is Dan Campbell at Iowa State.
Matt Campbell.
I'm sorry, Matt Campbell at Iowa State. And he has roots with Nebraska, right? I think there's some Nebraska roots with him. I thought maybe I could be wrong, but he's an offensive line guy. I think what he's done at Iowa State is phenomenal. Again, another program that doesn't get a lot of recruits. Are you talking to your wife right now?
Yeah, well,
is around pestering you during the middle of our broadcast?
Yes, she was bugging me, and Otis wants out. Otis wants to kind of watch what's going on too.
We're almost done, but no, I got to say, Mickey Joseph. I know you'll disagree with me here. Also, besides Campbell, I'm all about leadership and culture and heart and energy, and I think just based on the way this is our interim head coach. Everybody, I love him. I absolutely love him. I think he's honest. I think he's a true player's coach. I think they've rallied up around him amazingly. I think Frost claimed to be a player's coach, but as we're hearing, I think he was doing a lot of things the wrong way. But I think for the cards that Mickey Joseph was dealt, the situation he came into, he's going to be a prime candidate for a lot of these lower tier programs if he doesn't get the job. But I think to your point of recruiting, there's no better recruiter in college football than Mickey Joseph. And for those
he's one of a top 6 or 7, I think. I mean, I think there's a few that might be better, but he's very good. I hope we keep him in a wide receiver, running back, recruiting director position, kind of what LSU had him in. That's what they had him in. I don't think he really is the head coach from that standpoint, but he's a Husker, and I am for him. You're right. He jumped in a hornet's nest. So
I think he's responded really well, though. And I think, again, adding to your point, if we get a guy like, an Urban Meyer or a Campbell or a Matt Rule, you'd sure hope that we can keep Mickey Joseph on the staff as an assistant coach or recruiting director, because in this day and age in college football, you've got to be able to recruit. And players, with social media and how connected they are, a lot of them are going to Alabama and Ohio State. But to win some of these recruits, you need a guy like Mickey Joseph. And we just saw it with who's the kid we just got? Malachi Coleman, top 100 athlete. Got him from Oklahoma. It was between us and Oklahoma. That was Mickey Joseph all the way. Trey Palmer was brought here by Joseph. So I agree.
I think he can coach the receivers and the running backs like at LSU. I mean, he recruited Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, our running back for the Chiefs, the running back for the Patriots. I mean, he's done it. So they can put him in that capacity. Nebraska has a lot of money. They can pay an assistant coach whatever they need. There's a lot of dough there. They're creating a new $165 million facility. Their facilities are as good as anybody's in the West Division of the Big Ten. So, they've got a lot going for it. This decision, though, by Trev Alberts has to be the right one.
Yep. And I think there's nobody better than Trev Alberts to be in that seat, the athletic director. And I think he's going to make the right decision at the end of the day. But yeah, it's tough right now being a Husker fan, but we still love them just as much as we did even when they were winning natties in the 90s. But that's a wrap for our show today. Thank you, everybody, for joining and watching. This will be recorded on YouTube, so please share with friends and family. We want to get a lot of viewers on here. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed it. Jeffrey, thank you for joining. He'll be a regular co-host as we do this throughout the rest of the season. So we will be talking to you next week for the Minnesota game. Hopefully, it's a better outcome.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. Love you guys. Love you, Husker fans. See ya.